Welcome back to Echoes of Empires, the podcast where we dive deep into the wild, world-shaping stories of history's greatest powers and personalities. I'm your host, Alex, the guy who's always geeking out over ancient battles and what-if scenarios.
And I'm Mia, your co-host, bringing the drama, the intrigue, and those mind-blowing connections that make history feel like a blockbuster movie. Today, we're tackling one of the most epic events in late medieval history, the fall of Constantinople in 1453. This wasn't just the end of the Byzantine Empire, the last gasp of the Roman world. Oh no, folks, this siege might have accidentally kick-started the Protestant Reformation. Yeah, you heard that right. Buckle up, because we're about to unpack how a Turkish conqueror saved Martin Luther without even knowing it.
Exactly, Mia. Picture this. It's May 29, 1453. The walls of Constantinople, this legendary city that stood for over 1,000 years as the queen of cities, are crumbling under the roar of massive cannons. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI is making his final stand, sword in hand, like a real-life Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. On the other side, a 21-year-old Ottoman Sultan named Mehmed II, who's basically the Elon Musk of medieval warfare, innovative, ambitious, and ready to rewrite the map.
Haha, Alex, Elon with cannons? Spot on. But let's set the scene properly for our listeners. Constantinople wasn't just any city, it was the heart of the Byzantine Empire, the eastern half of the old Roman Empire that survived the fall of Rome in the west back in 476 AD. By the 1400s, though, it's a shadow of its former self. The empire's shrunk to basically the city and a few scraps of land. Population, maybe 50,000 people tops. They're surrounded by the rising Ottoman Empire, this powerhouse that's been gobbling up territories like Pac-Man on steroids.
Right, and Mehmed II, we call him the Conqueror for a reason, he's obsessed with taking the city. Why? It's strategic gold, controls trade between Europe and Asia, plus it's a symbol. Mehmed assembles an army of 80,000 to 100,000 troops, including elite janissaries. These were Christian kids converted to Islam and trained as super soldiers. And get this, he hires a Hungarian engineer named Urban to build the biggest cannons the world had ever seen. One of them, the Basilica, was 27 feet long and could hurl 1,200-pound stone balls over a mile.
Whoa, imagine the sound. Boom, like thunder from hell. The siege starts on April 6th, 1453, and lasts 53 grueling days. The Byzantines have only about 7,000 defenders, including Venetian and Genoese mercenaries. They're led by Constantine XI, a brave but doomed emperor who's like, if we're going down fighting. The walls of Constantinople were legendary, triple-layered with moats and towers. But these new gunpowder weapons? Game changer. It's like bringing a tank to a sword fight.
Totally. Early on, the Ottomans try mining under the walls, but the Byzantines counter with their own tunnels and Greek fire, that ancient napalm-like stuff. Then Mehmed pulls off this insane move. He has his fleet of 70 ships dragged overland across a hill to bypass the Byzantine chain blocking the Golden Harbor. Picture hundreds of oxen in rollers. It's straight out of a heist movie.
Epic engineering hack. But the real drama ramps up in late May. On the 28th, there's this eerie calm. The Byzantines hold their last Christian service in Hagia Sophia, the grandest church in Christendom, with its massive dome symbolizing heaven on earth. Constantine gives a speech, better to die than live as slaves. The next day, at dawn, Mehmed launches the final assault. Waves of troops crash against the walls. The key breach happens at the Kerkoporta Gate. Legend says it was left unlocked by accident or betrayal.
Chaos ensues. Giovanni Giustiniani, the Genoese commander, gets wounded and retreats, causing panic. Constantine charges into the fray, yelling, "The city is fallen and I am still alive." He vanishes in the melee. No bodies ever found. By noon, the Ottomans are inside. 3 days of looting follow. Treasures sacked, people enslaved or killed. Mehmed enters Hagia Sophia, declares it a mosque, and renames the city Istanbul. Boom. End of the Byzantine Empire, the last link to ancient Rome.
Heartbreaking, right? But here's where it gets fascinating, Alex. This isn't just a tragic end, it's a catalyst for massive change. First off, the intellectual ripple effect. Thousands of Greek scholars and artists flee westward to Italy, carrying priceless manuscripts, original texts of Plato, Aristotle, Homer. These refugees supercharge the Renaissance. Suddenly, Europe rediscovers classical knowledge. Humanists like Erasmus of Rotterdam start saying, "Go back to the sources, ad fontes." They print the Greek New Testament in 1516, which Martin Luther uses to translate the Bible into German and challenge the Catholic Church's interpretations.
Spot on, Mia. Without that influx of Byzantine knowledge, the Renaissance might have fizzled, and the Reformation delayed or weaker. Luther's 95 Theses in 1717 rely on that critical thinking sparked by humanist ideas. It's like a butterfly effect. One city's fall plants the seeds for religious revolution.
And don't forget the political side, tying right back to our last episode on the Ottoman shield for the Reformation. After 1453, the Ottomans become Europe's boogeyman. Mehmed's successors, like Suleiman the Magnificent, push into Europe. Sieges of Vienna in 1529 and 1532, wars in Hungary. This forces Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, ruler of half of Europe, from Spain to Austria, to fight on multiple fronts.
Exactly. Charles wants to crush the Protestants in Germany, Luther, the Schmalkaldic League, all that, but he's distracted. Wars with Francis I, and constant Ottoman threats draining his resources. In 1526, at Mohacs, the Ottomans wipe out the Hungarian army, opening the door to Central Europe. Charles has to negotiate truces with Protestants, like the Peace of Augsburg in 1555, which basically legalizes Lutheranism. Without the Ottoman diversion, Charles might have stomped out the Reformation early.
Mind-blowing, isn't it? The fall of Constantinople, a Christian tragedy, indirectly shields Protestantism from Catholic crackdowns. It's counterintuitive history at its best. What if the city held? Would Europe still be mostly Catholic? Would the Renaissance bloom as brightly?
Great questions for our listeners to ponder. If you're loving these hidden connections, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach more history buffs like you. Next episode, we dive into Suleiman the Magnificent and how he nearly conquered Europe twice.
Thanks for tuning in to Echoes of Empires. Stay curious, folks.